Now, you've worked as a session musician and record producer on over 2,000 different tracks by artists as diverse as Black Sabbath and Dana. One of those recording sessions, you had to face a difficult question.
Tell me, do you believe in fairies? Tell me, do you believe in love?
Great singers tonight, John Inman.
Wonderful. What a session that was. What a session that was.
Wasn't it,
Well,
eh?
John, we heard the question. What was the answer?
Well, what a song and what a day we had.
That was hilarious.
We laughed a lot, didn't
It
we?
was hilarious.
But congratulations, have a wonderful time, and it's so nice to see you again.
Thank you very much,
Thank
John.
you.
Thank you, John.
Well, that's a surprise, isn't it?
Now, Rick, close your eyes and let me take you back. You were born at Perivale Maternity Hospital in Middlesex on May the 18th, 1949, the only child of the late Mildred and Cyril Wakeman. Auntie Barbara, he made an immediate impression.
Well, the midwife said as he was a very long baby, he would grow up very tall. But he was extremely noisy as a child, crying from the time he woke up till he went to sleep.
I'm glad you came,
Poor
Babs.
mother, your poor mother, to get some peace, had to put you in your pram and put you in the garden shed.
Well, you didn't take root, really. There's a picture of Rick out of the shed and learning how to crawl.
No.
And you, you didn't manage to walk until you were almost 4. Barbara, one of his first expeditions was up the garden to feed the chickens.
Well, the trouble was he fed the chickens with sticks of rhubarb. The next day, half of them were dead.
Your father, who worked for a building supplies firm, was a church deacon, and you soon become a regular at South Harrow Baptist Church. Now, a family tradition was musical evenings in the front room of 19 Wood End Gardens. Your dad played piano, Uncle Stan the ukulele, Cousin Alan clarinet and sax, Cousin Keith violin, and your mum added vocals. And I'm told her Nellie Dean was unforgettable.
Bless her, she could sing and frighten people at the same time.
But your mum and dad used to encourage your
They did, they were
musical talents.
fantastic.
Alan, Rick was the star of those musical soirees.
Oh yes, he always played much louder, faster, better than we could. But I wouldn't have been playing at all if Rick, who learnt to play the clarinet at school, persuaded the music teacher to give me his old clarinet when he got his own one, and gave me my first clarinet lesson in his back garden.
Sure, yes.
And from that moment, I probably wouldn't have spent the last 30 years as a saxophonist professionally. So thank you for that.
Lovely. In 1959, you passed your 11 plus and you go to Drayton Manor County Grammar. When you're 13, the school acquires a church organ and you start practicing on that. In 1963, one way and another, you raise £23 and buy the cheapest organ on the market, a Woolworths Super Deluxe Reed organ. A classy instrument, was it?
I couldn't actually afford the Super Deluxe. That had a lid.
Your rock career begins when you join a group that plays in the Civil Defence Hall opposite your parents' house.
Yeah.
You call yourselves the Atlantic Blues.
And our first gig was a pub in Hayes.
Back together again for the first time in more than 30 years, the Atlantic Blues. Bob Walters, Phil Jones, Derek Allen, and to complete the reunion from South Africa, Ken Holden. Now, Ken, how did Rick's debut go?
Disastrous is the word that comes to mind.
Thank you.
The organ had fallen to pieces in the van, so Rick had to play the pub's piano.
That's right.
Which was at one end of the hall, and we were set up
Yeah,
at
you
the
all
other
set
end
up
of
on
the
the stage,
hall.
and I
that's
was
right.
down the other end on a piano.
And, well, I don't think the audience were too keen either. They started a brawl in the middle of the floor.
That's
later
right. We played one note. You shouted out 1, 2, 3, 4 from the stage. And a big fight broke out.
Happy memories.
Happy
Oh, wonderful. Great time. Yeah. Yeah. Bless you, Ken. It's wonderful to see it.
In 1967, you win a place at the Royal College of Music, but spend your nights playing organ in the band of the top-ranked ballroom in Watford. One of your favourite tutors at college was clarinet Professor Basil Tchaikov. But your visits to college, as well as the barber, became sporadic, and you spend more and more time at the musical bargain centre in the South Ealing Road. The proprietor, Dave Sims, helps you get your first gig as a session musician and arranger. Just before Christmas, 1968, you're a resident pianist with the band of the top-ranked ballroom in Reading.
Remember me, Dougal? Oh, I'm that band leader who sacked you three times.
He says 3 times. The man who waved the baton on your palais glide from Watford to Reading, Ronnie Smith, and with him lead singer Ashley Holt. Ronnie, why did you sack Rick?
There was a hooligan element at the time, as you know, and Ashley called me into the band room one day and said that you were ringleader and that you was giving me all the trouble.
Right.
And I'm sure Ashley wouldn't lie. But it was great fun, and we had some marvellous times, didn't we?
We did, and the truth why you sacked me was because the dressing room between our room, which Ashley will bear out, and your room, was you were very fond of taking young ladies in your room. We'd all and we'd all drilled holes in the wall, and we used to stand there looking through. and the wall collapsed, and me and Ashley landed up on the floor. And you just looked up and said,
I deny this joke.
Thank you both very much.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Scott.
Your climb to stardom accelerates in 1970 when you join the Strawbs. Your arrival transforms the group into the first folk rock band.
The jailer binds his hands and puts a blindfold to his eyes.
One of your epic gigs was at a circus in Paris.
And one night, your piano solo was totally surreal.
Fellow Strawbs Dave Cousins, Richard Hudson and Chaz Cronk. So, Dave, give us the story.
Well, it's absolutely true. We had to play and accompany the child jugglers, the lion wrestler. But the highlight, if you remember, was when we had to accompany the high wire act.
Well, I had a solo.
That's right. And you had this long solo. And suddenly, one night, on walked this eccentric-looking man with a moustache that pointed up in the air, strange eyes, and a
Wrecked
walking
my
stick.
solo.
And he stomped all around, was dancing up and down. The audience were going bananas. And afterwards, Rick said, "Who was that? Was he a mate of yours?" And I said, "Didn't you recognise him?" He said, "Was he a friend of yours?" I said, "That was the world's greatest artist, Salvador Dali."
Yeah. And I told him off, didn't I? Yeah.
Was your face red and blue and green?
Yeah.
Well, gents, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
In 1971, you joined an already successful rock group, Yes. With you on board, they move into the superstar bracket. From America now, some memories of the old days from John Anderson and the band.